Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, How to Navigate Budgeting and Forecasting Challenges Facing Finance, presented by Cintage. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar, and we will answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who registered but were unable to attend. We would also appreciate your participation in our polling questions throughout the presentation and our closing survey. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend this webinar. We're so excited to have Cintage here today to walk us through navigating the current challenges facing finance, and our wonderful speakers are John Murdoch and Mike Matthews. John Murdoch is the Chief Executive Officer at Cintage with over 20 years of experience. John is an accomplished technology executive and is excited to see Cintage lead the transformation of modern FP&A and enable finance teams to streamline their entire planning process and make faster, more confident decisions. Mike Matthews is the Director of Sales Enablement at Cintage with over 10 years of industry experience. Mike leads the solutions engineering team and works daily with customers to identify their needs and develop a plan to streamline budgeting and planning processes with Planning Maestro. I'd like to thank them both for being here today. So whether you're here specifically researching a new solution, or you're just here to learn, I'd like to encourage you to ask any questions you have. And lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we'll post our recorded webinars and more content like this. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to John to get us started.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Courtney, for that introduction. That was very nice. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we're thrilled to be here with our great partner, SWK, to talk to you today about how to navigate a very challenging time for finance and for businesses, and how to use budgeting and forecasting to help you navigate those circumstances. I'm John Murdoch. I'm the CEO here with Cintage, and I am joined by Mike Matthews, who will be taking the reins and taking us through a demo as well today. And we thought for the agenda today, we would really just discuss the pressures that are on all of us today, as we look to navigate, a very unusual economic cycle. And how to really kind of dive deeper into the health of your business and use forecasting and budgeting to really help your business performance and help you navigate through these uncertain times. And certainly discuss how to implement budgeting and forecasting strategies using our software, Planning Maestro, to build a robust FP&A function at your businesses. So let's dig in, and we'll start with just a quick introduction to Cintage. And our software, Planning Maestro. If you're not familiar with who we are and what we do, we're a software organization. We're based in the Boston metro area. We have about 10,000 users using our software, Planning Maestro. It's very easy to set up, very easy to use, integrates in with about 21 different general ledger packages, and helps you and helps our customers develop very detailed budgeting, forecasting, and advanced reporting for your businesses. So again, we're thrilled to be here today with SWK, who's one of our great partners to talk to you about how we can potentially help your business as well. So with that, and before we dig into the heavy content, we always like to hear from you. And so we'd like to run a live poll just to see from the audience today, what's your business outlook for 2023? What are you looking at inside of your businesses? So there should be a poll that's popping up, multiple choice. If you don't mind replying to that, we'd love to hear from our audience today in terms of your business outlook for next year, whether that be lower revenue, kind of maintaining current levels, or perhaps growing your revenue and growing your business.
Thank you to everyone who has answered the poll so far. We're just going to leave it open for a couple more seconds. So if you haven't put in your answer option, now's your chance. And it looks like we've had a good amount of responses, so we're going to close that poll. John, can you see the results on screen now?
I can see the results, and hopefully everybody can as well. So interestingly, it seems to be, kind of a very split audience right down the middle in terms of lower revenue, maintaining revenue, or growing your revenue. So I think that's a sign of the times, and in a certain uncertain environment, not unsurprising to see answers in various places. All of which tell us that really building out robust budgeting and forecasting capabilities is very, very important, especially in an uncertain time. So I thought I'd start with just a few other statistics and metrics beyond just those who have joined us today. I'm sure, like many of you, we're reading and watching a lot of what's happening in the world, and listening to our customers and listening to research. And so this is the day in the life of a finance team, and I'm sure everyone here can relate to the pressures that you face. And 82% of businesses will fail due to poor cash flow management. The age-old, every business goes out of business for one reason: they run out of cash. Certainly applies. But yet only 70% of SMBs, have created scenario plans to prepare for the future. So good that it's 70%. At times like this, it should certainly be 100% of businesses should be really watching their plans, running scenarios, watching their metrics, and making decisions quickly. Lastly, finance professionals do agree that the future of finance and accounting will be automated. And so when it comes to budgeting and forecasting and reporting, there's a great deal that can be done with automation and software to really aid you and your teams and your businesses. And so that's only going to increase in the years ahead, and certainly in a time like this, when the future is uncertain, using technology, using automation is time well spent and a good investment for your business. So change is certainly required to navigate uncertainty. It would be a mistake for any business or leader to just expect what got us to a certain point is going to be what continues through an economic change. So as the economy changes, so do our businesses, and so do how we manage our businesses and how we drive better decision making. So at a time like this, it really does require you helping your business team, get greater visibility, get more control over every aspect of your financials, all of those key metrics and drivers, and having a strong handle on it. As things change, like cost of goods, like inflation, like perhaps revenue or demand, having a strong handle on those drivers ahead of time in your scenarios will be super, super important. However, this is not easy, and so there are challenges that I'm sure you face and many businesses face, at a time like this. And those challenges come in many forms. It's certainly very difficult and time intensive to pull together, information and data to make decisions. There's certainly a lack of confidence if there's a lot of manual processes to pull together accurate data and to have confidence in the numbers. And we all know, there's never enough time in the day and never enough resources to get all of the work done. So although this is a very uncertain time, it's also a very challenging time to navigate a business and to make the right decisions for the future. So as we look at budgeting and forecasting, there's certainly common challenges that our customers face, and we see our customers face. And I should have said in the beginning, of the 10,000 users, we have over 700 businesses using our software. So we have a pretty wide spectrum and view into many industries and what's happening. And there are some commonalities, and this is what you see listed here. You know, in the middle, certainly, you know, at a time like this, poor cash flow visibility is one of the biggest challenges. It's easy to put together a P&L. It's easy to put together a budget that's, you know, got some plugs. It's very difficult to have a view of cash flow, all the ins and outs and requirements into the future. So that for our customer base tends to be one of the #1 challenges, is how do you get a real strong handle on your cash flow and your balance sheet projections into the future. There are other operational challenges that I'm sure you all may be facing, and again, software and automation can help. And that's also listed here. You know, no single source of truth. The data exists in your company, the data exists in your systems, but bringing it together and making it useful is difficult, and bringing that source of truth together so is a common challenge. And all of that leads to limited reporting, inaccurate forecasting, poor modeling, and just the inability to kind of dig down into the detail. So here at Centage, we understand these challenges. We built software to really address these challenges and help your business, and that's what you'll see today as we dig in and get to the demo. At the end of the day, spreadsheets just can't keep up. You can do everything we just described in a spreadsheet. You can hire people to build out models. Eventually, those spreadsheets just become too cumbersome and to maintain and to keep up to date. And it's just, you know, not the way to run a business, you know, through a spreadsheet. You're going to hit some scale where it's just not the right way to manage a business. So not to mention all of the labor and all the people that goes into it, as well as the error-prone nature of spreadsheets. Building a formula manually, even if you are the best formula builder or script writer in the world, is still very error-prone. And so those errors lead to mistakes in calculations, which then lead to mistakes in your financial projections. And those can be deadly for a business in an up or a down market, quite frankly. So let's go to another poll, just to switch gears and again, try to bring the audience into the discussion here. We shared a few of the things that we're hearing from our customers, but would love to hear from you today. What are your top challenges for budgeting and forecasting? And we'll give that a minute to run and look forward to kind of hearing what everyone has to say on that front. And of course, we've picked just a few of the top, and maybe there's others as well, but of the list you see here, I'm curious to hear what the audience thinks is your top challenge with budgeting and forecasting.
So thank you to everyone who's answered so far. We're going to leave this open for a few more seconds. Okay, we're going to close down this poll. And John, I've shared the results.
Okay, thank you, Courtney, and thank you everyone for jumping into the poll. This one's also kind of a tight race between some top challenges, and I suppose it is difficult to pick one when all of them are interrelated. But certainly, you know, having limited resources seems to be a challenge. We talked about that. You know, lack of automation certainly gets in the way, and that leads to, you know, inaccurate forecasting. So thank you to everybody for weighing in here. And you know, I think what we're going to shift gears to is to take it from theory and talk and hand it over to a live demo of the software, just to show how easy it can be to build budgets and forecasts and take advantage of the automation. So Mike Matthews, I'd like to hand it over to you and allow you to take it from here.
All right, great. Thanks, Sean. So yeah, let's come into the product here. So first and foremost, this is our welcome page, where essentially everyone with a license would centrally enter the tool. Now, depending on your security preferences, you may see a lot less tiles on the screen here, as well as a lot less sections of Planning Maestro coming down this left-hand side here. But really, it boils down to 5 major sections. So first piece here, it's what we call the data modeler. So this is where we'll come in and we'll house the integration to your general ledger, where we'd house the various segments and dimensions that ultimately make up your full string GL account. And Planning Maestro is going to be able to connect to really any GL that you have and model the organization exactly how you need to. Whether it's how certain departments are rolling up or companies or locations, programs, projects, obviously your financial statements and account numbers, how they roll up, really recreate and enforce the structural hierarchy and roll-ups that you have today, and then deploy that right into Planning Maestro for the slicing and dicing of reports, of budgets, even defining security at really any of those levels of detail if it made sense to. So right out of the box, Planning Maestro is designed to enforce, your chart of accounts and structural hierarchies and tree rollups one-to-one, as well as stay in sync with that. So as things change, again, maybe add a new account number, what have you, that'll just automatically flow into Planning Maestro. The next piece here, that's what we call the financial intelligence setup. That's where we'll define a lot of the seasonal spreads or trends of yearly budgeted numbers, and where you can define payment and receivable schedules for balance sheet and cash flow projections, any automated allocation methods. So during the training and the implementation process, you'll work hand in hand with a dedicated consultant to build out these data defaults, if you will. The planning section we're looking at here, where you'll come in, you'll have very customizable input screens, for the budgeting and planning and forecasting of things like expenses, revenue, personnel, and payroll. Create an unlimited set of customizable drivers and assumptions. Examples of this could vary across different types of businesses, whether it's units sold and rates, or number of visits or number of attendees, different rates, headcount, square footage, what have you. Run an unlimited set of scenarios on those assumptions, as well as run an unlimited set of forecasts, splicing in actuals with budget, making course corrections. A lot of our clients do this monthly or quarterly, depending on how often they update their forecast. Planning Maestro can automate this, line things up very, very, very well, as well as manage workflow. So if you decide you want to bring in, multiple department heads, different budget stakeholders, you'd be able to define security so that each person that comes in, they're just seeing what you want them to see and edit what you want them to edit. You'd be able to define various tasks and assignments for people, set up due dates, email reminders, obviously accept, reject budgets. So, we'll spend some time in here today, highlighting the major sections. And then obviously the reporting. The slice and dice, ad hoc, auto consolidations right within Planning Maestro, as well as some advanced, BI, dashboard, presentation style reporting here in Analytics Maestro, which we'll dive into a little bit later in the presentation. So let's come into the planning section here. Let's kind of always start off in the operating expense section. Let us cover some basics and fundamentals of the tool and then really drill in here. But as you can see here, kind of starts off this simple. We have a simple Excel-like grid and feel coming across here where, again, it could just be as simple as a user coming in, plugging in numbers as they go. We have our monthly totals automatically tallying up top here for my particular part of the organization. In this case, it's my admin department. Very easy to slice and dice what I want to view here. We're also giving you the ability to add as much granularity as you need. So, for instance, if I want to budget below the GL, something like travel as an example. I'm just going to simply click on travel. I'm going to drag my account numbers into my filters here. So as you see here, same GL account, same department code, same company code, but in this case, we're actually seeing 4 levels of detail. So, within Planning Maestro, we're going to have the ability to budget as granular as you need below that GL line. But, maybe even inversely, I might want to look at or isolate a particular account number, maybe across different parts of the organization. I can simply come in, click on an account and just kind of drag and drop that. And then I can see, whether it's building repairs or travel or medical supplies, I can now see that across all my departments that I have access to. So end of the day, these input screens are very customizable. Really going to have the ability to filter and work by really any subset of data that you need. So really there's three main ways that you would enter data into the system. The first way, again, could just simply be that manual process, kind of come in, plug in numbers as you go. Second way, it's what we call simple auto. In this case, I'm actually plugging the yearly amount and automatically spreading it throughout the year. Now we have a number of spreads already pre-built into the tool. A lot of your common ones out there. Maybe I'm just spreading something evenly over my year, or a monthly amount, quarterly end, quarterly start. But if you had any sort of seasonal spread or any other yearly spread or trend, you can very easily configure that into the solution. On the third way, it's what we call data links. So in many cases, you may want to calculate something or drive something based on other factors in the solution. A few examples here. First off, my office rental. It's being driven based upon my square footage driver coming from my driver section multiplied by my rate per square foot. Another example here, one of my travel lines. It's actually being driven based upon the number of trips that I plan to take, multiplied by my average rate per trip. So, what you're seeing here is really something that is fundamentally different from our solution, to most others in the marketplace today. Planning Maestro gives you the ability to build these calculations, and build these business relationships in English. How you or how a department head might actually think about, building up a budget and a forecast. In other solutions, this simple calculation could end up being a spider web of programming, or an Excel. You might think function terminology, equals E6 times B7, 10 different spreadsheets. With Planning Maestro, you'll simply have a list of completely customizable and configurable drivers or assumptions where, again, I'm just simply coming in and I'm picking and choosing what factors I want to play the part in my calculation. You also never lose visibility either. So if I want to drill in, see exactly what makes up this number, I can simply open up my details pane here in the bottom left. And then you see here, number of trips, rate per, or square footage, rate per square foot to drive my expenses month to month. So end of the day, each number that you put into this tool, it could be as simple or as involved as you need it to be. Now another one of the true claims to fame of Planning Maestro, and something that really separates us from a lot of the other competitors in this marketplace is essentially as you're building, these P&L, expense, revenue, payroll assumptions, Planning Maestro is going to be completely automating a forward-looking balance sheet and cash flow projection for you. Truly the only solution in the marketplace today, with that integrated out-of-the-box balance sheet and cash flows. It's simply just defining, your payment terms and expenses and your receivable terms and sales and income, and Planning Maestro is going to be able to handle the rest for you. We're also going to give you the ability to budget and forecast out multiple years. Our system rolls out literally as many years as you need it to, 80, 90 years, probably way more than you'll ever need, but the option's there if you need it. And we'll show you a couple other tools that really complement that, and why a lot of companies, they have adopted some form of a rolling budget or a mid-year forecast if they aren't already doing so today, when bringing on a more sophisticated solution like Planning Maestro. Now, let's come into the revenue section here, but I just want to point out, a lot of what we've already covered so far, it works very consistently throughout the rest of the solution. So, a lot of the basics we've talked about in the expense section, it can apply to how a lot of clients typically like to budget, forecast their revenue, but we do have a lot of specific tools that are built into this area of the product that could be, industry specific or even company specific, such as different types of payer mixes or utilization rates, inventory or component costing, cost of sales, cost of goods sold, driver-based budgeting. And you see here, we have this input orientation. So line by line, I can define each revenue or income stream based on whether you want to budget in dollars or in units. Units are really just a general term. It can essentially mean anything you need it to. For example, might be things like billable hours or patient days, units of a product sold, mileage, you name it. Can also define a price and a cost as well. Even these could be taken to an entirely different level. Maybe I want to drive my cost, based on a percentage of price, or cost based on a percentage of the total revenue. Maybe even break out costs into multiple components, various related costs, whether it's things like, direct labor, materials, overhead, logistics, so on and so forth. Another thing that we can do, since that business logic and intelligence is built into the solution, is the ability to defer revenue or income. So you see here, we're booking an assumption period 1. We're actually recognizing that evenly throughout the year. And in this case, the cash that's coming in 30 days later. Fairly simplified example, but this could be handled really in all sorts of extravagant ways. Could even go across multiple years if need be. Remember, our system is always rolling out. So if you need to defer over, say, 18 months, 24 months, maybe over the life of a contract or a grant or a program, and we can do that very easily. We have many different types of industries, within Planning Maestro where, sometimes they need to recognize their revenue maybe based on a percentage of a project completion or based on cost or based on spend with markups, things like that. But bottom line here is, however these sales end up getting booked, however you need to recognize that revenue month to month, year to year, however the cash ultimately comes in, as well as to whatever level of detail and granularity you want to break things down by. This can all be very customizable and at your discretion. Now, speaking of that, that kind of low-level detail, within Planning Maestro, you're also able to, I'd say more often than so in this section, our clients like to maybe break things down a bit more granular. Might not just be as simple as breaking revenue down by a GL account and a department code, but maybe you also want to break things down by a customer code or a project code or a product line or a supplier or what have you. So, within Planning Maestro, you're essentially going to have an unlimited set of these customizable dimensions for the ability to, again, budget across, slice and dice reports across, really any part of the organization that you need. So let's come into the personnel in the payroll section here. Now, while the simplest of budgets may account for workforce expenses as just another line item, really this day and age, payroll takes up far too large a portion of the budget to really take such a simplified approach. With Planning Maestro, we allow you to budget by position, or even right down to the individual level, wherever necessary. It's extremely common to even bring in your existing list of employees right into Planning Maestro from your HR system for the fullest accuracy and detail. So not only are you budgeting for salaries and start dates and differentiating the FTE versus the headcount, but we could even model out all the different expenses that are related to each employee. So, while you still could budget maybe just a more high-level flat fringe rate, in Planning Maestro, you're actually able to come in and budget all of the appropriate tax and benefit rates, with the exact caps on things like the FICA expense, maybe even a waiting period on things like health insurance, maybe a date of hire, plus say 3 months. So truly with less effort than before, you'll have more accuracy, detail, and power over more than likely one of the larger expenses of your business with Planning Maestro. We also do give you the ability to budget for those groups of employees if need be, defining the headcount, maybe even change or drive that headcount based on some sort of seasonality, with an average wage, fringes. Could be a sophisticated way to budget, but we can certainly handle that. So, building and configuring, let's call it that, maybe that first pass budget, a lot of times that's just the beginning. As we've learned, things they sometimes don't turn out the way we expect. So it's important to be prepared for that inevitability. So let's talk a little bit about scenario planning and forecasting. So many scenarios that you want to run, in a lot of cases, are based on increasing and decreasing certain figures and variables. Our what if scenario wizard is going to specifically handle that requirement. I'll be able to come in here, truly slice and dice my data any which way that I need to. Maybe I want to, create a what if scenario based on, prior year actuals or based off a current budget that I'm working on, and slice and dice from there. And if I just want to go after a handful of revenue accounts or expense accounts or any statistical accounts, units, rates, what have you, slice and dice that, by company, by department, by location, by product line. Pick and choose what factors you'd want to change. Whether it's coming in and changing the spread or the trend of a number, adding in a percentage increase or decrease, maybe even shifting the entire start date of some sort of project or initiative. So, within Planning Maestro, really going to have that ability to slice and dice your data and make those mass assumptions across any part of the organization that you need. So, the real power of Planning Maestro, it lies in this version control. You can have over 1,000 versions, to run best and worst cases, even track different revisions, during the annual planning and forecasting process. Now, again, why you made us want to make some of those mass assumptions with our What If Wizard, Planning Maestro provides fully functional versions, meaning that the full modeling power of our solution, it's at your fingertips, version by version. And you can make, more definitive business decisions. Perhaps you might want to model out a structural change, maybe an expansion or delay funding for a project, or model out an acquisition, maybe launch a new type of service or change a commodity price. Really, with this kind of control, anything could be possible. Now, and you'll have the ability to compare any version to any other, really meaning you're no longer limited to that one way that you may have built the model years ago. Now, Planning Maestro even takes this another step further with forecasting. So as often as you want, whether it's every month, every quarter, semi-annually, you can splice in actuals from your general ledger with the remaining budget and have that visibility to come in and make those business decisions as to how you want to adjust the next 3 months, 6 months, 18 months. So you really have that true dynamic rolling budget. This is also what many people typically think of when they want to see a forecast. With Planning Maestro reporting, you have a simple way to see what your forecast is when you're, for example, 3 months in. Here we're seeing 3 months of actuals spliced in with the remaining 9 months of budget. Even have the ability to dynamically shift that out to, let's say, 6/6 this easily. But again, this process, it may only get you so far. When you look at this and don't necessarily like the trend you're seeing, you may want to come in and make those course corrections. Planning Maestro is going to allow you to create really an entirely new version where you can utilize all of these same powerful tools to make true business decisions as you're adjusting the course of the business. So now that we've started to talk a little bit about reporting, I want to start by pointing out within Planning Maestro, on day one, you're gonna have a number of standard reports built into the tool. It comes with kind of your standard, GAAP compliant, P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, so on. But bottom line here is because we have this financial intelligence and logic built into the tool that you've seen throughout this demonstration. Planning Maestro, it does the math for us in each section. It automates all the debits and credits as you're building P&L or automating balance sheet, cash flow, so on and so forth. So unlike other tools, you do not have to program in how you want to roll up the accounts and then program in some sort of math. Planning Maestro already knows how to do these calculations. So all you have to do is simply define how you want to roll up the accounts, really just drag and drop them anywhere on the report. Really have full flexibility when it comes to creating and customizing these report layouts. So as I drill into a consolidated P&L, I can now drill right to my lowest level of detail. Here's my office rental, that we talked about earlier in the expense section. Right now, this is a month-over-month report. And if I wanted to break this down to a quarterly result or a yearly result or a multi-year view, I can kind of customize these time subsets to whatever I want, 5 years, 10 years, 4 years, mid-year. I'm just gonna grab my total here for the year. Maybe I wanna see all of my departments come right across the top here. Simply just drag and drop that in, press refresh, all my departments come right across the top here. Maybe these departments do roll up into a tree structure. I can simply come in, I can customize a tree structure. And maybe it's a multi-company view or a divisional view. I can very much customize anything I need here. My case here, multi-company. Same result, but with company 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so eliminations involved. You can really kind of just slice and dice this data any which way you need to. Run variance reports, actuals versus budget or budget versus best case, dollar variances, percent variances. All you care about, is the numbers, the results. You're going to get everything you need here out of Planning Maestro. Then we also have, our next level, BI, dashboard, presentation style reporting here in Analytics Maestro. But, end of the day, could have pretty easily created this type of report in Planning Maestro, exported out to Excel, built all these pretty charts and graphs built around it. But if this is something that I'm doing, on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, sending out to department heads, executives, the board, the bank, what have you. I have zero desire to come in and build this every time I need them. Now, with our advanced reporting, you're literally building these reports, these layouts one time, and then you're done. All the most up-to-date information, it automatically feeds in via Planning Maestro and in turn via your accounting package. Even if someone comes in and overwrites this data, mistakes happen. Simply come in, press refresh sheet, most up-to-date data goes right back to where it needs to be. We have a sample dashboard here, revenue, expense, net income, with some of our key charts and graphs built around it. We have a year-over-year comparative statement. As I'm clicking around, notice in the formula bar, there's no links, there's no formulas, there's no crazy VLOOKUPs. We're letting Planning Maestro do all the heavy lifting and the auto consolidation. We're simply reporting on the numbers, on the results out here. And we have a year-over-year budget to actual comparison report with some of our key sample metrics and KPIs built in on the bottom. End of the day, truly going to be able to create and customize really any report that you need. And during our comprehensive training program, it's exactly what we aim to do. We don't just train you on static data. We're actually coming in and we're building your structure, your chart of accounts, your revenue and expense models and custom report layouts and drivers. And in turn, hopefully the first pass of the budget during that training process. But again, might not just be about kind of P&L aspects or income statement, but also maybe year-over-year balance sheet. And the ability to simply double click, drill into whatever level of detail, right click and zoom back out as needed. Cash flow, right into that same level of detail. Maybe even some non-financial accounts, again, the various drivers and statistics of my budget, headcount, total hours, planned hours, units sold, what have you, for a number of years, coming across the various parts of my organization. But again, at the end of the day, the sky, it truly is the limit. You're going to be able to put these reports into really any format that you need with any data residing in Planning Maestro. You're also able to set up an automated report distribution function as well. I have a distribution function here. I can kind of slice and dice. I can drill in where I need to, drill into my corporate department, drill into period 5. You can very much slice and dice and drill through to any level of detail here. Standard with our integrations to your general ledger. We also do have the ability to double click on a number and actually drill into the GL transaction detail. You'll be able to customize what field you want to pull. You'll tell us what you want, and we'll be able to automatically pull all of those. The integration runs, twice a day, so you're able to get your most up-to-date actuals in the tool. It really is as often as you need. So, in terms of the product, that's what we had planned to share with you. I'm going to turn it back over to John for to wrap up and have a couple next steps. Any questions, please submit those into the Q&A and we'll be happy to address those. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. That was amazing. You're a wizard, or as we say here, you're a maestro. That was fantastic demo. Thank you so much. Okay. So back to a few more slides and then we'll get to the Q&A before we go. Just to bring the conversation home, I think what you saw from Mike, there's a lot of capability there, a lot of features, a lot of things that you can take advantage of. We always recommend starting simple, starting slow, grow your model over time. But I think what you saw today was certainly, hopefully, very compelling to help you automate and build stronger FP&A processes for your organization. So staying ahead of uncertainty. So back to the conversation earlier, it's a very uncertain time. How do you stay ahead? What can you do to really try to get ahead of this and be one step in front of what may come? Certainly, software can help, but even without the software, there's definitely some things that we recommend to our clients and we advocate for. Priorities for the finance team on the left-hand side is really at a time like this, you really want to improve your reporting. You really want to make sure that you have a handle on all of those analytics, all of those key metrics. You're refreshing them on a frequent basis, and you're reviewing those with your management teams and your leadership teams so that you can make quick and fast decisions. So however you get to that point, whether it's with software like we offer or others, really focus in on improving your reporting process and really kind of turnaround time there. That may require some technology, it may require some automation, hopefully what you saw today it gives you confidence that there's some things out there that can assist, you know, and really focus on bringing down your cycle time. You know, the business is going to need to be looking at their performance, those key metrics, and even things like budget variances. Are we ahead? Are we behind on our budget? Or are we ahead or behind on some of our drivers or assumptions, all the way down to things like cost of goods and cost of labor and things like that. So get that cycle time up, collaborate closer with your business teams. You know, now's the time to be out there talking to them, listening to them. What do they need? What are they seeing in, you know, in their parts of the organization, and, you know, help them make good and strong decisions. And in terms of priorities for FP&A processes, on the right-hand side, back to the reporting point, if you can get this to as close to real time as possible, get those variance reports in the hands of your business leaders. If there's a budget or a forecast, you know, you want to make sure that they have the ability to get their hands on the variance reports so that they can stay ahead of any variances that may come up or down in their budget, in their assumptions, etc. We advocate now looking at least at a monthly reforecasting process, if not weekly, just at the very least to refresh those reports and stay on top of what's happening. A lot can happen in a month, and a lot can happen in a week. So, you know, increase your process there. And then, you know, try to get to a place where you can build out quickly some scenarios. What if this happens? What if that happens? Both, you know, positive and, you know, things that may be challenging for the business. You know, run your, you know, run cost models, run revenue models, run personnel and staffing models, right? Run all of those scenarios, have them on hand. And understand for each of them, you know, the cash flow impact. You know, take a look at your cash flow runway. Capital is more expensive, as we know, as the interest rates have increased, and capital is less available to certain businesses. So you want to have a strong handle on your cash flow. So that's what we're advocating for with our customers as we're out there talking to help you stay ahead of the uncertainty. It looks like it's going to be uncertain for an extended period of time here. How long, nobody knows, but be ready, prepare your businesses, prepare your teams. And then, you know, how to kind of combat, you know, the inefficiencies. Everything I just talked about is good in theory, but very hard to execute on because, you know, often budgeting and forecasting can be a very inefficient process, very manual intensive, especially if you're using Excel and spreadsheets. So how to combat it? First, ditch the spreadsheets. You got to get out of a spreadsheet. You got to get that into some automation, connect directly to your GL, which is your source of truth on actuals and transactions. Get your budget into a place where it's connected directly to your GL source. Those two steps, in our opinion, are a must-have right now. They'll serve you well in the years ahead, both in a uncertain time as well as a certain time. So focus there. And then that brings us to the last 2 points, which is, you know, automate your balance sheet and cash flow. The P&L, that's a little bit more straightforward. Probably can do that in a spreadsheet, but it's really the cash flow and the balance sheet which really speak to the health of your organization. So you want to make sure that that's right. You want to make sure that it's not error prone, and you want to automate it wherever you can out of your budget. That's almost impossible to do in Excel. Easier to do if you choose software like Planning Maestro. Lastly, you know, translate, you know, all of that information into actions, right? So it's one thing to have a nice report or a nice dashboard. It's a completely different muscle to really build the ability to make decisions and to take action on what you're seeing. So start that process. That gets back to my point on collaborating with the business, right? If you're out there, if you're reviewing your metrics and your information on a regular basis, you'll be able to take action more quickly and more decisively at a time like this. Okay, so 4 factors to consider when selecting a solution. Hopefully what you saw with Planning Maestro was exactly what you're looking for, but we recognize there are others out there. So if you are out there considering other solutions, we recommend these 4 things be considered in evaluating that. First, how quickly can you get the software up and running so you're using it? Time to value. That is the most important thing right now. You don't want to select software that's going to take you 3, 6, 9, 12 months to implement. You want to find something like Planning Maestro that you can begin using right away, get value right away. Point number 2 is the learning curve. Pick software that's modern, that is easy to learn, is intuitive, and is something that you think your teams can really learn with with little effort or little training. Planning Maestro, we have great training. We have a great training hub, and so it's also very easy software to use, but you're still going to want training to understand the more advanced features. So factor in the learning curve, factor in how quickly you can get to value. And then point number 3 here is think about the technology stack. There are lots of softwares out there that are on premise, that are older in code. Pick something that's modern, pick something that's going to support your business for years to come, like Planning Maestro. And then last point is how flexible is it? Can it meet your specific industry needs, business model needs, etc. And ask those vendors to show you. Just like Mike went through a demo today, ask us to show you how we would do XYZ for your business. If they can't show it to you, then it means it's not easy to use, easy to implement, and it can't fit your business. So press them to show you exactly what you need. We're happy to do that. So at any time you can reach out to our team, and we'd be happy to schedule a demo. And so lastly, make your budgeting and forecasting processes efficient. It may seem like a little bit of work up front to get this going and to leave spreadsheets and adopt something different. It will be time well spent. You'll be glad that you put this in place for your business and built out this capability for the years ahead. And you want to get to a point where your data is working for you. You have data locked away in your systems, GL in particular. Unlock it. Get it to a point where your business can make decisions around it quickly. Enhance it with insights around those reports and dashboards that Mike showed. And really ultimately just try to align with a vendor like Centage who can serve you well into the future and support your business for years to come. So with that, that's our scheduled content. We want to wrap up with any Q&A, any questions that might have come up along the way out there. We're happy to address. And I think there's a couple ways you can do it, if I'm not mistaken, Q&A or the chat window.
Yes, thank you so much, John and Mike. We are now going to open it up for questions. So you can either put your questions in the questions section of your GoToWebinar or in the chat box. We will get them either way. And while we're getting some more questions in, we've had a couple that have come in throughout the presentation. So John, I'm going to go ahead and start reading those out for you.
Sounds great.
So our first question is, we are managing expenses tightly. How do I make a case for this investment?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I mean, it's a great question. So, ROI for something like this is you're either going to go build it with people and with spreadsheets, and that is expensive as well. The time to ask people to do these types of processes, build these reports, eat into their nights, eat into their weekends. That is cost as well. Even though the people may be in the company, they have other jobs to do as well. So we always recommend, really focus on a couple of things. One, the speed at which you can turn around the budgets, the forecasts, the reports that the business is looking for. Time is money, especially now. So focus on that. The investment for Planning Maestro, as an example, is really a drop in the bucket compared to the time that it would take for your team to build these out and take months or weeks to build it in Excel. So focus there. The other side of the ROI equation is just focus on the value. If you can find a way to save you know, $100,000, $1 million, $2 million for your business, the investment in Planning Maestro is well worth it. It's well below, and the ROI is extreme. So this type of solution will help you find a way to save money, you know, bring that back into other investments in the business that can, you know, drive a very high ROI.
Awesome. So our second question, you know, kind of goes along the same lines. So how long does it take Planning Maestro to get up and running? You know, and how much of a time investment would that be for the team?
Yeah, great question. I'll take this one too. So, so implementation time, if you factor in training, I mean, you can have this connected and, you know, data flowing in a matter of minutes and hours. So, but to, you know, go through training, to get some advice on how to build your model, you know, you probably want to take, you know, maybe 40 hours of time over whatever number of weeks you're comfortable with. So if you want to do that in a week, you can certainly get it done. There's great training available. We have training packages and a great consulting team. So I would answer the question, and, you know, it's probably, depending on the level of effort that the customer wants to put in, maybe 40 to 60 hours of effort, and that can be done over any, you know, any number of weeks that they're willing to dedicate.
Okay, sounds great. And then unless we have any last minute submissions, I think this will be our last question of the webinar. So our last one is, do you integrate with Acumatica and QuickBooks?
We do, actually. I'll take the last one as well. So we have 21 integrations to general ledgers, Acumatica and QuickBooks. Both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online are on that list, in addition to NetSuite, Sage Intacct, all of the Microsoft products for the most part, some Oracle products, SAP. So we have a long list of integrations. We keep adding to that. So I'm sure if you have a GL, we connect to it.
That's great to hear. So like I said, I think that's our last question. I haven't seen any more come through. So I would like to thank you guys both, John, Mike, for being with us here today and, you know, giving us a great presentation and really giving us an in-depth look at Cintage and how it can help address, you know, the challenges we're all facing today. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining us today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, thank you, Courtney. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.